Keep It a Buck. We here in the studio.
A lot of these offers don't be that real, so it's not committable.
What that feel like when everybody's getting their turn and it's not yours yet?
What they call you?
Godfather of New Jersey.
You powerful man. I ain't gonna brag, but that's what they said. I ain't say that.
Welcome, people. It's another episode of Keep It a Buck. We blessed here with rival analyst Adam Friedman.
Yes.
Rivals has a big event tomorrow. He took this time to come out and sit with us. Thank you so much for showing up, man. I know this is a lot for you with all you have going on. I got my partner Nas in the house.
Yes, sir.
And we're gonna talk football, man. We're gonna talk Northeast. What do you cover? What area?
I cover the East Coast for Rivals. I do basically Georgia up the coast right now. All the Carolinas, the Mid-Atlantic, the Northeast, everything. I got Pennsylvania and West Virginia as well.
Okay, so we're gonna kick it right off. Tell the people who you are and what you do.
Before Adam answers that, time to thank our weekly sponsor.
Some people think what I do is easy, but they wrong. I'ma keep it a buck with you. I'm a different breed. Move! Come on, work. Good.
Stay true to yourself and what you wear. Keep it a buck. Yes, sir.
Sure. My name's Adam Friedman, obviously. I'm the national recruiting analyst for Rivals. I'm also the rankings director for Rivals. I travel around my region throughout the year normally when there isn't a pandemic, and I find college football prospects. I report on what's going on in their recruitment, and I also evaluate players for what we call the Rivals 250, which is the best 250 players in the country. We rank those players in order. We also rank players by state and by position nationally. We also run the Rivals Camp Series, and I'm in charge of putting the right players into those camps for my region. We have 6 events around the nation this year. Normally we have closer to 17. The final event is called the Rivals 5-Star Challenge, and that's where we bring out the best players in the country to compete against each other on the same field.
So tell us how long you've been in this industry.
This fall will be my 10th football season with Rivals. Yeah, man, time is flying by for sure.
Has it been eventful? What has it been like?
Oh yeah, it's been fun. I really enjoy my job. I always wanted to work in sports, and I'm a football diehard. I watch a ton of film. I love reading up on what's going on in college football and in the NFL. Love following those players, and it's been a lot of fun. It really keeps you on your toes for sure.
How'd you get into business?
How'd I get into it? I went to school for sport and entertainment management, trying to focus on the business of sports, and also just, by myself, just watching a ton of film. That's how I wanted to get into this job. And I got a lot of internships when I was in college. I worked with the James Madison football coaching staff for a summer, and I really soaked up a ton of knowledge there. And then I went to, then I graduated college and started putting out resumes and did an internship with Rivals for about a year. I spent a couple of months also with at what point was the Army All-American Bowl doing their selection tour. And then got hired by Rivals full time and been here ever since. Started out as the Mid-Atlantic recruiting analyst, doing Virginia North. And then they've expanded my region to more the East Coast and combined a lot of those rankings aspects with my job. So it's been a lot over the last 10 years for sure.
How would you tell a young, aspiring Adam Friedman to get into business?
So I was a kid. I wasn't part of that good old boy network. I'm not a former college player or anything like that. I got to grind to get your contacts. Now, if you're a former player, you're part of that good old boy network, you're kind of born with those contacts already at your fingertips. So I had to make sure that I pestered guys, send a lot of emails, make a lot of phone calls, send letters even. To really try to get your foot in the door with anywhere you want to work in this industry. I was sending resumes to NFL teams, college teams, Rivals, all the other companies out there that do rankings or involved with football scouting. And that's kind of how I broke into it. I got a response back from Rivals, Mike Farrell, shout out to the Godfather. The Godfather was his intern for a year, worked for free for a year. You got to be willing to pay your dues for sure. There are no handouts in this industry for sure. So you got to be able to work for it. And he hired me full time. And shout out to the other boss, Derek Sampson, getting me in the door. And been here ever since.
Right. Yeah. So it's more like the grind that you always kind of wanted to do since you was like a younger guy?
Yeah, I always wanted to work in football, work in sports. I'm just kind of the junkie guy. I'm glued to the seat on Saturday and Sunday, Monday, Thursday, Tuesday, whatever nights they're putting on a game, I'm there for sure.
So what it was like for like a guy like Adam Friedman, like growing up, like we all have like our different stories and different paths, but for someone like you, a younger guy, like in high school. You said you didn't play high school football?
I did. I played high school football.
Okay.
I just really loved it there. I broke my collarbone my senior year, right before my senior year started, so I kind of lost that a little bit. But typical high school career. Nothing spectacular. I did a couple of combines when I was a kid, but and I read Rivals habitually when I was a kid. For sure. And, saw those big prospects. Derek Williams was number one at the time, coming out of the Maryland area, ran the steps at FedEx Field and everything like that. So I was really into the recruiting stuff, even at a young age like that, too. So you got to be a junkie if you want to make it into this industry. You just I work, 24 hours a day, almost every day a week. My phone's going off at 11 o'clock at night. You just got to be willing to answer the phone and find these guys and do the legwork to make yourself successful.
I know I'll be pounding the phone, so.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So how would a young athlete or an athlete that doesn't have a Rivals profile go about getting one?
Go about getting a profile? So there are a couple of different ways. The easiest way right now is to sign up for one of the free Rivals combines. We've got one on Saturday this weekend here in New Jersey. I know that's full, but if you participate in a Rivals combine, you will get a Rivals profile. That's just how it works. There are other couple of ways to do it. You can send an email to recruiting@rivals.com. That's really easy. You can try to tweet at us or send us some messages, stuff like that. Get your coach, get your 7-on-7 coach, get your trainer to reach out to us too. We're not hard to find. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram. We can reach us by email. You can do all of that stuff. So there are a lot of different ways. Make sure your huddle is easy to find and updated. Make sure your Twitter is easy to find and updated with all your information. You can even put your huddle link in your Twitter. You can put it in your Twitter link in your huddle, all your Instagram. Make sure all that stuff is easy to find because half the battle is really finding these players.
So in regards to finding the paid players, like what can attending the Rivals camp do for a talented kid that's under the radar, small school, something like that?
Oh yeah, I mean the Rivals camps are great at helping these players who are maybe underrated or under-recruited rise to the top. There's nowhere to hide at Rivals camp. Everybody's doing one-on-one reps. Everybody's getting looked at during position drills. So you're really under a microscope. And if you've been doing your work but haven't been getting the attention you expect, just come out to a Rivals camp if you get invited. Come out to a Rivals combine and get noticed because, hey, we're out there looking for the best players. And if you're the best one, you're gonna show.
Can you give me some names that might have wasn't on the radar and they were at a small school and they showed up to Rivals and then they just took off?
Rashawn Gary. He had one offer when he came to our camp. It was right after his freshman year, and I think he had 3 SEC offers the next day.
Wow.
This was when he was still at Scotch Plains before he went over to Paramus Catholic and everything. So
yeah,
I mean that's a quick and
before
easy.
Keeping a buck a man.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's a quick, easy one. I mean there's a number of examples. We had a tight end. I'm blanking on his name right now, but he's from West Virginia. He had only a couple offers before. I think Rutgers was one school that had offered him.
Charles Finley?
No, not Charles Finley. He's from West Virginia.
Okay.
And he came to a Rivals camp in Ohio, got an invite to the camp from the combine, then won, if we'd given out an MVP to tight ends that day, was the best tight end on the field, ended up signing with Penn State. So, he had offers from Ohio State, Notre Dame, Michigan, wherever you want to call, but he ended up choosing Penn State, and he only had a couple offers when he showed up to our camp. So that's something that the Rivals camps can do. You get enough film there, enough one-on-one film for college coaches to be satisfied, You can trust the measurements. We don't do combine testing at rivals camps. We only do position work, but we do height, weight, wingspan, arm length, hand size there, so we can get all that stuff updated on your profiles and everything like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who would you say is the most gifted athlete you've seen with your own eyes?
Well, Jabril Peppers up here is a definite one for sure. I love Micah Parsons as a high school recruit. The guy played all over the field. He took reps at running back. He took reps at tight end. He was a defensive end, an edge rusher. He was the punter. He was the kick returner. I was at one of his games his senior year. He won homecoming king that day, but he also scored something like 5 touchdowns, had a couple of sacks. One of those touchdowns was a kick return for a touchdown. Like, we're talking a huge linebacker.
So I'm about to say, from the
this is a linebacker
Yeah.
doing this stuff. I mean, he's really incredible.
So it's safe to say you believe that 4.3 that they clocked.
Yeah, I mean,
You think so?
You give Micah Parsons a year off from actual football training just to focus on combine training. You know, this guy's a freak of nature. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was a 4.3. I would probably put my money on a low 4.4 if it was an NFL combine testing number. But the guy's freaking fast. I mean, what are we arguing about? What are we arguing about here? This is a couple of tenths of a second, one way or the other, you know?
Oh no, don't act like that.
It's
This
size.
is important right now. She said, "What are we arguing about? A couple tenths of a second." And that
A couple
brings-
hundredths of a second. Okay,
That-
he ran
that
a
brings me
4.39.
to another question.
Yeah, okay.
Why do you guys in the ranking industry and in the college network treat 5'11" and 6 feet as if it looks like this?
We used to.
It's just a little inch. Why does that
lines
make
are-
a difference?
Those lines are getting a lot more blurry, especially when you think about what 5'11" and 6 foot means at the quarterback position versus the DB spot versus a running back. You know, the line between 5'11" and 6 foot at running back, it means nothing. At defensive back, maybe a little more. But if you get more into the wingspan, the arm length, the actual reaction speed, that can make up for whatever you lack in an inch, you know? Yes, the NFL is crazed about 6 foot and taller corners, but most of them are smaller than that.
You know who else is crazy about it?
Evaluators.
Frank Brown.
Frank
Frank Brown only want long guys.
Hey,
man.
well, it works out in the Big Ten, but for the most part.
Shout out to Frank Brown and the job he's doing at Rutgers, man.
But if
He's
I got,
done a great job.
yeah, he's a heck of a job. If you got a guy that's like 5'10" DB with the speed, the jumping ability, don't that jumping ability kind of add up to like the height a little bit?
A little bit, but you got to have that sense of timing. There's a sense of patience that goes into it, anticipation and timing, and it has to do with your length, your arm reach, and all that, and your core strength to be able to box out some of those bigger receivers that you're going to be going against. So there's a lot of different things that go into something like that.
So what about have you ever invited an 8th grader to the rivals camp? What gets an 8th grader an invite to the rivals camp?
You look like Landon Tangwell did.
Who's
Landon Tangwell was one of the top offensive linemen in this previous class. He's from Maryland. He was at St. Vincent Pallotti his freshman year of high school. But the spring before he entered that freshman year, he came up to Rivals Combine up here and was the biggest player there. Hands down. Not even close. And
What about skill guys?
What about skill guys? We've had a couple of 8th graders come in the past. I'm blanking on a name right now, but it's really not impossible for an 8th grader, especially if there are guys that we know are going to get offers or have already gotten offers. There are some of those
It's
freak.
potential based.
Yeah, it's all potential based. Some of those freak athletes that are in 8th grade who are like 6'1", 6'2" already. You know, some of those guys have SEC offers already, so they can end up getting into the camps. The Rivals camps are for college football prospects, whether they have offers or they don't. You know, so that's how it goes there.
So it's my understanding that you had the pleasure of being at 2 St. Peter's games this year. St. Peter's Joe, St. Peter's Bergen Catholic.
I wasn't at the Bergen game. I was at St. Joe's and St. Peter's. That's the only St. Peter's prep game.
I thought that Bergen St. Peter's game was a hot ticket. I thought everybody.
I didn't make it at that one. No, I didn't make it there.
Okay, so observing, I think it's safe to say you've worked your way around Jersey's Big North League.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
What would you say that you see there when you go to watch games there that's different from other settings? If any.
So on the field, you're talking about a league where the coaching style and schemes are at or approaching college level. You're talking about guys who have the knowledge base to communicate a complex offensive or defensive system. You're talking about just coaching staff here. But then you also have administrations that are supportive of these programs that help them stay at the top like they are right now. And that's really important when you take a wider view of what's going on in some other areas of the country. Some areas are de-emphasizing sports, whereas the Big North sees the value that the football teams bring to the school, the region, the players. It really helps them out. So I applaud what they're able to do. I really enjoy dealing with the Big North schools because you get a different level of, I'm not going to say professionalism, but it's more of a, hey, we know how the process works. We're here to make it easy for you.
You ever been to Texas?
I haven't been to Texas. I know a whole lot about it, though, from hearing about some of these analysts that are down there. They enjoy dealing with some of these programs, all the coaches there, great facilities. It's Texas is a different world when it comes to high school football and dealing with things like that analysts would, that journalists would, that college coaches would. Just a whole different animal down there.
So are there any other leagues that when you move around that you've seen like the consistency, like how the Big North they play each week is going to be a big game?
Yeah.
Are there any other leagues that you've seen out there like that each week that they play like that?
So again? Oh yeah, yeah. Down in the WCAC in Maryland, some of the MIAA schools.
Who's
also
in the WCAC?
The WCAC is DeMatha, Good Counsel, St. John's, Gonzaga, Bishop McNamara. A number of those schools down there that you hear about. Sometimes maybe for basketball than you do football, but they're great programs there too.
They've actually, I think they've replaced. The Big North was the second toughest conference in the country. The WCAC, I think, has now replaced them. So the Big North is third. So it's the Trinity League
Out in California.
out in California. The WCAC and the Big North. So we're actually, I know some promoters working on getting a little face-off.
That'd be great.
Preseason thing. And it's
I
something
love
we used
it.
to do a lot.
Yeah.
Back when the
Pre-COVID.
guys was at Paramus Catholic and everything like that. There was a lot of Jersey versus that WCAC.
Yeah, I remember coming up to Bosco for a couple of years when they would have St. John Bosco and a couple of the other teams from California come
Mission
out.
Viejo.
Yeah, Mission Viejo, yeah, and that was a great. We love those classics, those preseason classics, whether they're on TV or in person. It's a really good chance to see what some of these top teams can do from around the country. Remember St. Francis, the last fall football season that they had, went out to St. John Bosco out there, I think is what it was. And that was a fantastic game to really see all that talent. I mean, there were 30 some odd football players on the field. There's only 22 on the field at the time. But there's a lot of guys out there that are great prospects. It was fun to see what Bryce Young was able to do to those guys. It was pretty impressive.
So how you feel about like early recruitment for some kids? How I want to look at the good and then the bad about it.
Early recruitment is good as long as the player can really stay focused on what is the most important thing to get them to what the end goal is, which is making it to college and then the NFL. If you stay focused on the end goals, the other smaller stuff shouldn't trip you up. It's when you got parents, other former players, trainers, those hangers on that can really derail you. And you just need to be mindful. Everybody needs to keep in mind that the end goal is to make it to college and the NFL. And you don't want to mess it up by trying to get too much hype and then losing the expectations game when you get to high school or college. You want to be as good as advertised the entire way and try not to let the pressure get to you there.
So WCAC, you have a lot of experience with that. You've roamed the Big North. I'm asking this question for some of our viewers, because some of our viewers like to know, do you think, and I know we all have to check it because we all have implicit bias.
Sure.
Do you think that there's some implicit bias involved with the rankings? Because looking from the outside in, it seems as if guys down in the South, Georgia, Florida, we're going to stick with Georgia and Florida, major football states. You have California, you have Texas. Those guys get the benefit of the doubt where they don't have to check all the boxes. Opposed to being up here, we're told our kids have to check the boxes. Like if you look at the Big North, most kids fit the prototype of that position. Because up here it's all about, well, what position does he play? Does he have the measurements for that? Does he run the right time? even when we're talking to our young guys, we're saying, "Oh, you got to put weight on. You're going to ninth grade. You got to put weight on." But then you can take that same kid, put him down south, and now he's got 10 offers. But if he was here, you gotta say he's kind of frail. Maybe he's not fast enough. Like, we feel like the Northeast athlete is scrutinized majorly, and there's a benefit of the doubt given to the South. I know you're gonna say no, but am I hitting on something?
So recruitment.
You are.
First off, the first 4 states that you mentioned, Florida, Georgia, Texas, and
Big
California,
boys.
they all have the most. That's the 4 states with the most players in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
So implicit bias or not, the results speak for themselves.
There
But I will say that early on, players from the South probably do get the benefit of the doubt because we've been able to see more of them because the weather's nicer and there's more events, and that's just how it goes.
Okay.
Same thing with baseball and soccer and the whole bit there. The second thing is that, some of those guys we've kind of known about for a little bit too. And as we learn more about some of the guys up here, we're able to kind of make that apples to apples comparison. Implicit bias or not, that's just kind of how it goes. But rivals camps, we have analysts from all over the country that go to each event. So our West Coast guy was at our Miami camp. Our Texas guy was at our Atlanta camp. Our Midwest guy is going to be here this weekend. I was just in Indianapolis for the rivals camp out there. So we do cross-region scout to get a better idea of what is happening in other areas of the country so we can rank appropriately. And that's one of the ways we try to limit bias. I know that there aren't many companies out there that do that kind of thing, at least in the same industry as rivals. There are scouting companies out there that do some different things, but in terms of public rankings, rivals does as much as we possibly can to limit that implicit bias.
So do you guys let's use for an example, right? Let's go with Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
You have a guy like Cody Brown. Are you familiar with Cody Brown?
Yeah.
All right. So there's no official measurements or anything on him. So if you've seen him in person, you know kind of by standing next to him what's really what. And then you'll come to Jersey and you'll have a kid like Ryan Butler who's exactly a clone of Cody Brown. In Jersey, Ryan Butler's told he doesn't check certain boxes. Cody Brown is the top 10 running back in the country. And there's no difference in speed, even if you break it down to do analytics in the sense of you can tell a guy's time even if they don't go run. All you have to do is watch how many steps they take in a 5-yard marker.
See, that's too old school though. That's subjective. People don't like it when they talk about analytics and that kind of thing.
All right.
So I understand what you're saying. I love Ryan Butler. I've got him rated higher than I believe the industry does. That's a Power 5 back right there. You can do a lot of different things between the tackles, the outside, and catching the ball. I loved his productivity last year. He's doing it in the best league in the country. I know that he saw his ranking when it came out in the fall, I believe is what it was. So I'm with you on that type of thing. It's just the industry is subjective. Honestly, the NFL.
I gotta ask.
NFL's
keep it a buck.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Yeah,
I'm with you. Yeah, it's a subjective business. The NFL teams don't get it right, and they've got whole staffing departments as big as rivals doing this thing full time. And we're not small by any means, but hey, we're working with the resources we get, and our hit rate's pretty good. We had 20 of the 32 guys in the first round were 4 stars and up. That's pretty good. Nobody else in the industry did that.
So tell us about the time you didn't get it right. Who sits with you right now and you're like, I felt it.
So we didn't get it wrong, but Sam Howell, the quarterback for North Carolina, was my guy as a high schooler. Nobody else really wanted to get on the bandwagon. We ended up ranking him in the final rankings, I think 111 in the country. But the guy's a Heisman candidate this coming fall, possibly Heisman favorite if you want to discount what's going on in Oklahoma. But that guy was I knew him since the midway of his freshman year. Really, really liked what he was able to do. DJ Moore was another player out of Philly who I really liked. He's playing with the Carolina Panthers now. He went to Maryland. Really liked him from a young age. Got a higher ranking on him early than the rest of the industry did. Yetur Gross-Matos was another player. He's a defensive end that went to Penn State. I think he's with the Carolina Panthers now also. He's out of Virginia. I wish we had rated him a little bit higher than we did. There are some other ones out there, guys that we've been well publicized.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson 2-star, J.J. Watt 2-star, yada yada yada.
Was it?
So
Did they show up at any type of rivals camp?
No, those were pre-rivals, and J.J. Watt was a tight end, who really put on like 60 pounds of muscle or something when he got to Central Michigan or wherever he went to before transferring to Wisconsin. And Russell Wilson was a guy who was a baseball player in Richmond, Virginia, and ended up, finding his way to NC State and then Wisconsin, and that's the story there, I guess. But we do get it right sometimes too. We did pretty good with DeAndre Swift's ranking, the running back got it right on the button. Number 33 overall in the draft, number 33 overall in the Rivals 250.
So you on your future cast, because I know sometimes at the bottom y'all do that round. Y'all hit that on the nose?
No, I hit his draft spot. He was number 33 in the draft, and he was number 33 in the rankings. So, we do it right sometimes. I know DeAndre, we always had a good time on the recruiting trail. But yeah, we ended up getting that one right. He had some words about his ranking though at the end of the process.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple.
Always kids like that.
I know Travion Henderson is.
I love
Travion. Y'all about it.
Love Travion.
Yeah, did y'all didn't give him the 5th star?
No. How many running backs went in the first round this year? One.
Okay, so explain that. What is that? What is?
Oh, there's a position value for sure. I mean, that's why you always see quarterbacks, left tackles, defensive ends up at the top of the rankings.
Yeah.
Those are the most premium positions in football. This is an easy decision when it comes to that stuff.
So I learned something today. So basically, the value of that position goes into your ranking as well. So let's just say you're the best running back in the country, you will not be ranked ahead of the best quarterback at the end.
Probably not, unless it's a really bad year at quarterback or D end. And how exceptional are you as a running back? Najee Harris, thank God we had him number 1 in the country. Having him go in the first round and having him be number 1 player in the country, or having him rather not go in the first round and then be number 1 player in the country, would have not looked great.
So when you guys do your ranking, y'all got to answer to somebody like, hey, what the hell's going on?
We answer it to ourselves basically, and we just see what our statistics are at the end of the day. That's what we get judged on. We get judged on the draft. How many 5-stars didn't get drafted? Some. But the percentage of 5-stars that get drafted compared to the number of 3-star, the percentage of 3-stars that get drafted, it's huge. It's a huge difference. The 5-stars get drafted at a substantially much higher clip than 3-stars.
Okay.
Chicken and the egg with the 5-stars, because I have a fellow friend I speak to. He calls that a calling card, right? You have your calling card, 4-star, 5-star. When you have that 5-star calling card, they say that you can just go to college and be decent, but they're going to take a chance on you because of that calling card. How accurate would you say that is?
I think 5-stars, and I think what you're talking about is more of a metaphor for, like, you were found to have physical talent from an early age.
Yes.
We don't have to teach you how to be an athlete anymore. So you're given a benefit of the doubt because I know how to coach football and I can coach you football. That's what a college coach or an NFL coach is saying. So that's where the benefit of the doubt comes into play. It's more of a cockiness amongst college coaches versus, just getting by on your swag, basically.
So like about a month ago, I was down in South Florida, and I heard a guy say, I said, "Where you seeing your kids? Where the kids go? You go to Miami?" I said, "No, they go to Miami. Miami don't take 3-stars. The 3-star kids from here." So I said, "Wow, that's the same thing we're dealing with at home. But they're not taking the 3-stars of going to Rutgers, right?" And he said, "Oh, we mess with Rutgers down here because Shiano will come and grab our 3-stars, but he won't take the 3-stars from home." So that right there, it kind of threw me off. And then watching, when you said the size difference, I'm watching a lot of these guys, the running backs for the Buffalo Bills. I'm watching my man from the Minnesota Vikings.
Devontae.
These guys they barely taller than Jalen Klein. So when I'm seeing them, and I'm like, how did he get his break? So now it makes a kid like a Jalen Klein that's here say, I might as well move to Florida and play down here so I can get noticed.
Florida's the most over-recruited state, and that's how it happens. Kids are given the benefit of the doubt that down there because they've already been proven to have that athletic ability. Now you just need to coach them up.
But their games are not the same intense like the Big North games. They're not.
Oh, I agree.
Same thing with Georgia. Georgia might play 2 heavy games on their schedule all year long, and then the rest of them is like.
Sure. I'm with you there. Like, you know, there's a murderer's row of opponents up here for sure. And the kids are just different up here than they are down in the South. But there are some kids in the South or on the West Coast or in Texas or the Midwest that you kind of find that alpha dog mentality, and those guys will succeed anywhere. But if a kid is trying to get recruited more, why not go where most of the teams are recruiting? Is it unfair? Maybe sometimes, but that's why we have the combines where anybody can come out to and compete and, you know, show what you got. Prove people wrong. I love it when kids prove rankings wrong. I love it. I wish.
Can I talk about that? So rankings.
Yeah.
I witnessed something that was kind of almost disturbing to me during the pandemic, you know, and I know what I have to attribute to it. It's something I don't understand. Football, so you guys, not just, I don't even know if it was your entity of Rivals, but I know 24/7 Rivals, you guys usually within weeks apart of your rankings. So prior to going into COVID, there was a ranking system that was dropped and kids was placed a certain place. Then all activity stopped. And then certain kids started rising and dropping after the rankings with no activity. How does that happen?
So the rules kind of, like, we kept our rules pretty much in place throughout the entire pandemic. We didn't update rankings for players who weren't doing anything, save for one occasion where we knew that these players were going to rise. We just didn't know how much to move them up before we ended up seeing them. They were stuck with an early evaluation that, you know, was from a few years prior to that, and we just weren't able to see them again to have that full movement up. So we did adjust rankings for the first time ever, I think, between actual updates. We only update our rankings periodically throughout the year. It's about every 3 months. We've been adding a couple of new 4-stars a week to the 2023 class. That's the rising junior class. That's the first time we've ever done that. For the large part, though, the rankings are very cyclical. Our next rankings update for the 2022 class will come after the camp season, which will end in June. We'll do another one after All-Star camp season, which will end up being the preseason one, which will happen in August. And then we'll do one after the season in December, and then we'll do one after All-Star games, which will serve as the final one for the 2022 class, which will come out in January. We don't update between that. Just during the pandemic, things were a little bit dicey, and we needed to make sure that some of these guys that we knew were going to move up ended up moving up. Most of those guys, I think 3 out of the 5 were from North Carolina. There was one kid from New Jersey that we moved up, that the lineman that went to Wisconsin moved up a little bit within the 3-star rank.
He got his 5th star, I think.
No. He got his...
the lineman from Wisconsin?
No, the lineman from New Jersey that went to Wisconsin last year. Okay. I'm blanking on his name right now. A good interior defensive lineman, though, moved up to 3-star ranks. But there were just a few moves in the pandemic year that needed to be done that just we hadn't had a chance to do that yet. And so we updated their rankings for the first time. I'm not familiar with what they do across the street there, but
that's a different.
It appears that they change it after they see anybody. Rivals, we take pride in our process and really doing our homework on it and making sure that knee-jerk reactions don't have a big role to play in the rankings. We don't want that.
So can a player drop because of injury?
Drop because of injury? Well, it will determine, like, the severity of the injury will determine if he drops or not.
Like, all right, let's just not say it's even severe. Let's say you have an injury that keeps you out for the season.
Out for the season? I mean, is it a sprained
ankle?
Let's
say it was a broken arm.
A broken arm, you're coming back from that, no problem.
So does he maintain his status, or does he drop
he'll
because
maintain,
he didn't play?
So I want to specify 2 different things here. There's a difference between rating and ranking. Your rating on Rivals, say it's a 4-star, you're a 5.8 Rivals rating and a 4-star. You're more than likely not going to be moving off that 5.8 4-star ranking. If it's a serious injury, like you broke your leg and tore up a bunch of stuff and your college career may be delayed by a year or 2, that affects your long-term potential. We're seeing that now with a couple of players. And so your potential to be drafted in the 1st round, 2nd round is dropping. And so if it's a severe injury that could take a while to recover from and put you behind the developmental 8 ball, then your ranking could be looked at. That's how it goes.
So coming up this year, what are some of the matchups you want to see? some of the big games?
I just want to see some football.
Okay.
I just want to see some football. We got to get back to some normalcy here where the big teams are playing some of these other teams that weren't able to get fall seasons going or spring seasons. Or spring seasons are good to show off development, but it's pretty watered down. A lot of teams are not looking sharp during the spring season, and we were able to see some really good players play finally, which is great. But I always loved the I-95 matchups because those are the teams that I know the best. I grew up with these teams, so being from Maryland and spending so much time up here, I love to see the Big North versus WCAC games. I love to see St. Francis go around the country and take on top teams when they're at full strength. I love to see the North Carolina teams out in the middle of nowhere in North Carolina, going at it on a 95-degree night under the lights. That's always great. But there's some really big players that I'm looking forward to seeing on the field this fall rather.
Want to name a few?
Yeah, I got to see these Bergen Catholic kids. I'm excited to see what these DBs are all about. Chase Basantis, up here at Don Bosco, is getting offers left and right. He just got Alabama the other day. I got to check him out. I got to see what's going on over at DePaul with the new guys, going in over there. Quiet Price over there is a guy that we like a lot. And then some of these New York teams, man. Erasmus Hall's got a ton of talent. I'd love to see what they can do. Love to see what they can do.
Christ the King as well.
Yeah, Christ the King for sure. Yeah.
I gotta get on.
Go get it.
Please.
Go.
All right, so
keep it a buck.
I gotta keep it a buck. So like we was talking about Erasmus Hall and like those guys at Christ the King, the kids with a bunch of scholarship offers, and everything like that, and then they'll come over here and play a team with half the scholarship offers kids on their team, and then just get wiped off the box.
Yeah, I think a lot of that has to do with, Erasmus Hall is still very, very talented. Teams in Brooklyn and New York, very talented players, but they have a hard time developing linemen over there. We see a lot more skill position players than we do, say, interior linemen, defensive tackles that come out at a high clip and play college ball. And they just don't have the facilities out there to really make a huge impact on lineman training there. You see guys that come out with a lot of physical talent that look really promising, but they just don't exactly develop like you would hope. And I think that's kind of the big difference that you see when you see teams from New York come out to Jersey or travel down the coast or elsewhere to really get in a good game. But it's still very talented programs out there for sure.
Gotcha.
One of the things that I've noticed in this recruiting, why I think it's going to hurt high school recruiting, is because there was let's take for example, there was a time before Shiano where if you were a Division I recruit in New Jersey, you automatically had a Rutgers offer. You don't automatically have a Rutgers offer right now. And I argue, based on a relationship I have there with certain people, is that you got to check certain boxes now. And one gentleman pointed out to me, he said they can afford not to offer every kid now because of the portal. Like, I don't have to get you. I don't need you as a fringe 2-star, 3-star kid when I can snatch a college-ready kid right out of the portal.
Exactly.
So what we may see happening now is a lot of kids falling through the cracks and ending up at FCS, group of 5 schools that would have usually been a Power 5 kid. Do you see the day where that happens?
Yeah, I could see that, but then the option is also available to them. Like if they're killing it at the FCS level, you can go up and keep your year because you don't have to lose. You don't lose a year when you transfer up.
Yeah.
And so why not do that and try to play the game that you were kind of referring to when they're high schoolers? Go and play against smaller, not so good teams to boost your stock up. But then you still have to. The buck still stops at you. You still have to prove it.
Yeah.
And if you fall on your face after trying to transfer up from FCS to FBS, that's on you. And that's a consequence of the decision that you made.
One SEC coach said, he made the comment and said that they weren't really throwing out a lot of high school offers in this area. And their thing was, opposed to taking a kid that we're not sure of a metric or how they play, we'd rather take the best kid from an FCS group of 5, proven already, that we don't have to put in our weight room and we only have to spend money on for 1 and 2 years opposed to a high school athlete. And it sounds like a formula we may see a lot more of because it makes sense.
It does make sense.
Win now.
College teams are starting to employ people just to launch the portal and evaluate the portal. So the portal's not going away, transfers aren't going away. College football recruiting is going to largely remain the same. except for some of those guys at the lower end, like you were talking about, that were probably going to be late takes for Power 5 guys, are now going to be definite Group of 5 guys, because college teams can go right to the portal and fill their holes at the end if they like what that player can do, more so than a high school prospect. So, yeah, that's just how it's going to go. Yeah, hey, but you can transfer too. You know, you can transfer too.
I know, or you could be stuck
you're
too.
Allowed.
So
You're allowed to take advantage of the rules.
So I wanted to ask you. So right now, how do you feel about Rutgers and what they're doing now on their recruitment? Because they bring in a lot of big time guys, and like we talked earlier with Fran and his size and the length. They got a lot of big guys up front, and the DBs is growing. They all 6'1" and better.
Look, they're doing a great job. They're dealt a tough hand, obviously, but Coach Ciano has turned over that roster, what, 75%, 80% now? I mean, it's night and day compared to the previous regime. And the players that they're bringing in right now, Kenny Fletcher, I love that guy on the edge. Anthony Johnson, a true inside guy. I'm a big fan of what they're able to do with it. You know, Samuel Brown, Gavin Wimsatt. I mean, these guys are real players that other teams wanted badly and couldn't get them. Credit to Greg Schiano, Fran Brown, the whole staff there, doing a great job. Augie Hoffman doing a great job there. I really like what Rutgers is doing, and if they continue on this path, you know, they could be making more noise sooner than what people really think. A lot of it's going to fall on what Wimsatt can do once he gets to college and how he develops as a passer. But love an athlete like that when a team is still building an offensive line, a reliable offensive line. They've got big players that they can, you know, add a lot of good weight to. Taj White. We were talking about Monegro a little while ago. They've got the next guy in the following class from Union, Jasir. Really like what they're doing on the offensive line. But when you are building a group like that, you don't have a really solid group already on campus. I like that they're bringing in an athletic quarterback that can get away from pressure and that sort of thing.
You being a Maryland guy, you've seen this already. Loxley,
he's trying to
lock up the state, and he's brought in some of the top talent. And in that Big Ten, is it just that the Blue Bloods will be the Blue Bloods, or is it what's happening there?
Yeah, I mean, it's similar. They're in a similar situation. I mean, they're not New Jersey, like the DMV, the DC Maryland area. All the big boys come and cherry pick the top players. That's how it goes. But Maryland is trying to do the same thing that Schiano's trying to do right now, whereas keeping the top players home. They're doing a decent job of it. You know, all those big private schools like you guys have up here, you know, big schools always make those stops. And so it's on Maryland to really kind of figure out a good way to keep those top guys there. They're doing a good job bringing in some really good skill players right now. I love what they're doing on the quarterback spot. If they could maybe get a little luck from the health department there. You know, they're doing a good job, and it's an offensive system that has put up numbers before. It's just more about getting the right guys on the field to stay healthy and play consistently. And you know, they're in similar places. It'll be interesting to watch their game this fall to see what program is where, and you know.
They got Rutgers ranked ahead of them, right?
Yeah, I mean, the top of the Big Ten, or the top of the Big Ten East, you got Ohio State right there. Penn State, you don't know what they're going to be like this year. Then it's Rutgers, Maryland, Michigan. You know, kind of figuring out who's going to be who.
The preseason was Ohio State, Wisconsin, then Penn State, and I can't remember who came after Penn State.
There's a lot of. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the Big Ten East outside of Ohio State. You know they're going to be good. They're still dealing with the new quarterback this year, so who knows what'll happen. There's a lot of talent in the East right now. This Northeast area, I like what the college teams are doing.
If you get a shot, I know you busy guy, man. Last time you was able to send a representation there. We're doing a Game Changers Middle School showcase, May 22nd. And one thing about that showcase, we showcase a lot of the middle school kids that's actually on their way up. So we had like KJ Miles, who had like non-scholarship offers before then. Jalen Berger, Jordan Morant, and you know what's good about that? Like we have like the footage and things like that. And we
somebody else too.
Just so Taj Bullard, the list goes on. Andrew Butler.
Did you have Al-Qadim back in the day too?
That's he started it off. Those guys.
So
we actually stopped talking, like not saying stop talking about it because he's on in the pros now. So it's just about like the babies. But one thing I love about the program and everything that we do have, is the kids do come back and reach back. Like
That's
if you
great.
look the other day, Berger was there.
I see that more with y'all than anywhere else.
Always love it when
Anywhere
players can
else.
come back and show thanks to the guys that helped get them to where they're at, be at the camps that they went to when they were kids, because showing these kids the way. I mean, that's really important. It helps these players, these young ones, understand what they need to be doing to get to where they want to go. Having Jalen's come back, Rashawn's, all these guys come back and put their arm around these players is a big deal.
I watched our kids actually, like in South Florida. We were there, and you see Dalvin Cook and all these guys.
Yeah.
And I ran into a kid that was a wide receiver, and I'm thinking he's a pro the way his body looked. St. Thomas Aquinas, Braylon
Brown, going to Ole Miss.
Grown
Love
man.
that receiver. Wish I rated him higher too. Yeah.
He's a pro.
Yeah, he looks
He's a
good.
pro right now. I'm telling you. But the thing about it, he get to go against these NFL DBs all the time. His offensive coordinator is Tua's quarterback coach. Yeah, so like they're around this over and over. But that's our goal to kind of bring back. We want the Jabril Peppers, those kind of guys that come to an area, and then we get those kids that's on their way out, just to feel them, touch them, know that it's real.
It's got to be nice that Burrow's back up here too. Right?
Yes, it's great.
Yeah, he did. I know he did a lot for the community. A lot of the people around here really like him. He was always fun to cover. He did a good job with the media stuff when he was a recruit. It was always a good interview for sure. I know you guys know all about him.
No doubt, man. That's us on Keep It a Buck. We got Lenny, Adam Friedman, writers.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much
guys.
for coming.
Appreciate you.
Are you familiar with Cody?
Yeah,
Brown?
yeah.
All right. So there's no official measurements or anything on him. So if you've seen him in person, kind of by standing next to him what's really what. And then you'll come to Jersey and you'll have a kid like Ryan Butler, who's exactly a clone of Cody Brown. In Jersey, Ryan Butler's told he doesn't check certain boxes. Cody Brown is the number top 10 running back in the country.